SJ. Welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar. Yes, Jay, Stone Go, Gary Fife, Jaho, Jeff Geddos, Mvskoke Radio, Mabo Hedges, Wedges. Whoa, I must have caught a bit of Brooks's cold there. Anyway, welcome to our program. We've got a couple things we'll be looking at. We've got a chance to deal with our emergency management programs, and later on we'll have our tribal liaison check in with us with a couple of things. But first of all, let me welcome to our studio Mr. Bobby Howard, who is the director of our tribal emergency management program. Thanks you, sir. I know you've been busy in the last few weeks. Things are still getting crazy, and we're still in smack dab in the middle of storm season. So I appreciate you being able to make some time and come down and talk with us.
You're welcome.
Now, first of all, as I usually like to do, tell me about the emergency management program. What is it you do? The services you provide, your mission. So let's start there, and then we'll get into some of the specifics there.
Okay. Well, good morning. So the Office of Emergency Management's mission is to protect the nation during times of natural or man-made disasters. The office has a staff of 2. We have a plethora of equipment. We have the big generators, the water trailers that citizens see at not only when there's a disaster like the ice storms or floods, or when the water's out in their communities. We use those, but we also use those when there are events like at our ceremonial grounds, or if a church needs one, or if a community is running a big event. So the focus of the office is primarily disasters that affect the nation or any of Indian country here in the state of Oklahoma. We work with all 5 of the civilized tribes, plus we're a part of the Intertribal Emergency Management Coalition, which is all the tribes in the state. So right now, if there is a disaster in any of the tribal areas, the first calls that their emergency managers make are to the other tribal emergency managers. So we have an internal system that we depend on each other before we go outside looking for any outside response or any outside help.
So for the most recent examples I can think of would be, of course, tornadoes. We're in the midst of smack dab in the middle of tornado season, and we've seen some of these things happen that just leveled little towns and rural areas and things like that. Now, have any of those happened in tribal areas that they've called on your crew as a resource?
Yes, sir. So that Thursday night of the tornado in Shawnee, which is actually, it started in the citizens of Potawatomi and the absentee Shawnee area. We deployed at about 2:30 that Friday morning to coordinate with Search and Rescue Task Force 1 from the state, but also the Northeast Area Search and Rescue Task Force, the disaster team, which the tribes, Choctaws, Cherokees, us, have members of. So we were on ground, I'd say like 2:45 that Friday morning, and then we were there through that evening, and then back again on Monday. Our Arbor Care services were down there Friday through Tuesday, taking care of primarily Friday were the main roads and then entrances into housing additions. And then on Monday it was in support of the power crews, because you'd have an area they couldn't get the power back on because they couldn't get there. There were trees that were down, big trees, 3-4 foot around trees. So they worked there, and then they worked on citizen property. Now, not just Creek citizens, but all native citizens. So all of those requests ran through the Emergency Operations Center, which was set up at the Absentee Shawnee headquarters and was staffed by their folks. Tim Zentek, who is the Director of Emergency Management for Potawatomi Nation. So those requests came into Tim, and then they funneled out to our Arbor Care folks, and they just took care of business.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're called out to assist in a situation, what is it that your crew actually does? I mean, you've got Arbor Care clearing the down trees. I presume the driveways people are helping clear out roads and things like that. So are you primarily coordinating these things, calling in help when you need it, or specific kinds of assistance?
So I manage all of the assets that the nation has.
Uh-huh.
And then when I was there early on, it was in the Emergency Operations Center because, as we spoke the last time, I had 34 years in the Army and ran the state's operations center. So when there's a big event, they will call me just for that expertise to come down and manage resources and manage the operational side of what's going on. And you can imagine that tornado hit or started out by the spur, and then it drove right up Kickapoo, all the way from Citizens of Potawatomi, which is their headquarters there on Hardesty Street, all the way to I-40.
Mm-hmm.
So not only were their citizens impacted, it destroyed probably 300 businesses.
And of course, the economy and the structure starts to collapse. So you're kind of pulling resources together. You may not necessarily be out there with a chainsaw yourself.
Right.
And I like to remind our listeners of all the things that you have to call on. Like we were chatting out in the lobby a little earlier about some of not necessarily the health crews, but you call them in when you need them. But we've seen droughts and things where the water was lost, and so you're pulling in these buffaloes, these big mobile tanks for drinking water and things like that.
Yes, sir. So, depending on the event, the nation has 6 500-gallon water trailers. And the fine example for that is last February when we had the big ice storm in 22. We had the big ice storm in 22. We delivered across the nation over 50,000 gallons of water with those water trailers.
No, we've seen them here on our campus here where they parked next to some of the education buildings and things like that, where people could come in and fill their containers with drinking water and things like that. Now, you have to be careful where those go and make sure that they're monitored. You don't have some nutcase out there pouring something
in them. Yes, sir.
Evil and things like that.
So the rule for the nation and for that is that it is on tribal property and that it is monitored. So when we have an event, we always look to put them at a community center, or if it's in a town that doesn't have a community center, we'll put it at a fire station so that there's somebody with eyes on it 24/7. And then as it needs to be refilled, we'll run out there and get it and take it to the closest water source. The liability not only to our citizens is if we try to put it in somebody's yard. Mm-hmm. You can't protect it. And then, we would be remiss in protecting our citizens if we did something like that, because if something was in there and we got a lot of them sick. So, we have some rules that we have to follow. Our office is designed and by legislation is for big disasters. It's, I don't have 1,000 of 5K generators to take to single homes.
Okay.
You know, my generators are 150 kilowatt, so something that would power a community center. So that's our aspect of my office is community wide efforts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we take care of big chunks of our citizens. Wherever we go, it's to a community center, or like I said, to a ceremonial ground, or on the complex, or at one of our health facilities, so that, you know, you hate to say this, but it's the biggest bang for the buck.
Well, sure. I mean, you've got people looking for shelter. I mean, they lost their homes, they need a roof over their head. But when you get there, you've got to be able to drink some clean water, perhaps
Have electricity,
food. I mean,
Food.
and in several sources. And of course, things like sanitation, which is incredibly, critically important. So that's why a community center would be the focus of your help.
yes, sir. If we had a disaster in one of our areas, we needed to set up a shelter for our citizens, we would target our community centers, and the community centers have a hazard mitigation plan and template that I've given them. They have a shelter plan that tells them, you know, what they're responsible for. Now, we provide food, water, power, all those things. But when you're running a shelter, you need to have people that are there. Somebody has to cook the food.
Mm-hmm.
So some of those tasks fall on the local communities, and they fill those documents out and send them back to me, and we keep them filed. They do it every year so that we know, okay, we're going to have to open up a shelter. We know who to call.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know, we're coming down there, activate your guys. We're bringing water, we're bringing food, we're bringing power. And also when it's a major disaster, I can pay those people that they bring in to work. So it's really good. We focus our efforts on our communities and to take care of our folks. But again, when we put a water trailer we'll just use Dewar, at the Dewar Community Center, it's for all of Dewar. We don't just say, show me your card.
Mm-hmm.
No, we you know, as Chief says, this is our nation, and you can imagine, I have 11 counties to worry about.
Right, and community means just that. I mean, if family needs the place
To stay or
get out of the
sir.
rain, clean water, food. I mean, now we're not talking gourmet meals here. It may be some kind of sandwich setup or something that can be.
And we let the community, the folks at the communities bring in. We really let them. They give me their receipts for what they cook. Now, of course, they're not gonna go get steaks and things like that. But certainly, you're going to see all the traditional stuff that they can, bacon and eggs and sandwich stuff, soup, stew, chicken,
Right.
you know, salad, all of the, you know, all those staples.
Here's a new question that just popped into my mind now. We've got this meat processing outfit up on 75 Loop Square. So would you call on them to perhaps help supply something from their stock?
I have a direct account with Loop Square, so I can send someone there to pick up 100 pounds of hamburger or 100 pounds of chicken or anything. So I have a direct billing aspect with Loop Squared just for emergencies in case we have to have it.
I think that's pretty cool that you can call on our own tribal resource to help supply the needs of our people. You know, when we hear of major disasters, health care and things like that are always an incredibly important ingredient. Now, I know you don't have a staff of doctors here for your folks, but you'd call on our own Department of Health to help supply to respond to the needs and people of for health care. Whether it's broken arms or things like that, or people that have been
Yes, sir.
and
So
things like that.
the nation has an emergency operations plan that lists all of the assets within the nation, and I directly coordinate with both the health emergency manager and the secretary of health on any items that we need, and that's really a focal point. I'm glad you brought it up. You know, December 24th and 25th, when we had the super freezing cold weather, and we had pipes burst at River Spirit, at Council Oak, at some of our facilities here. It's 9 o'clock at night, but for the first time ever, you had all three parts of the nation working together at Council Oak. You know, River Spirit brought equipment over. I was there with my folks. Health was there with all of their folks, to protect Council Oak and ensure that we kept that facility safe and there wasn't that much damage done. And I can say I did a walkthrough last week, taking final pictures, and it's back up and fully operational. So it's just so good to see how we can coordinate within the nation, not just the assets that I can control under the tribe itself, but I can reach to gaming and I can reach to the health sides, and we can pull all those assets together to save the nation's property and citizens.
Now, in trying to protect those assets, you would call on Lighthorse to fill a role there?
So depending on the event, I work with the special operations team a lot, and then with the patrol folks, depending on if we needed to block areas. We'll take the last ice storm. We had Lighthorse officers that were delivering medicines to citizens because they couldn't come and get them. So it's a total. When we stand up our EOC, we're tied into all of the departments within the nation. Mm-hmm. Everybody is right there, and we just completed. Last month we fielded a new $3 million radio communication system that ties everyone together. It's state of the art. We were testing it. Chief was on his way to Alabama, and I called him on my radio, and he was in Tupelo, Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him just like we're talking to each other right now.
Would that be satellite phones?
No, they are LTE phones. So we can talk on our radio system now, 700, 800 megahertz. We can talk on VHF, UHF, and LTE, basically a secure version of cellular. Mm-hmm. So it's very advanced. It is cutting edge. No other tribal entity has a quad band system, because then we can bring the other radios and tie them into our system, so people don't have to go and buy radios. You're on VHF, not a problem. We can program it in, and then we turn to that channel. We just talk to VHF or talk to UHF, talk to 800. The Choctaws are on 700. So in my radios that we have installed in all of in Lighthorse, our EMS, our ambulances, all of our clinics, our transit. We did a complete fielding for the nation, and it was a joint effort between Chief's office, National Council, my office, Lighthorse. I just got to be the person to orchestrate it all. Mm-hmm.
Now, when we're talking radio, we're obviously on radio right now. Thank you, KOKL, which we buy sometime. Would you be able to communicate with citizens anywhere, like an announcement that needs to be made? Would you coordinate with the local entities?
Now we can talk to all of the public safety folks mm-hmm. that want to give us access to their frequencies. Mm-hmm. We can talk to all of those. I can talk to Wagner County EM, Rogers County, Mays County, Tulsa County, Okfuskee, Hughes. One click of the button and I can call on their main channel, or they can call us. So this system it's amazing in what we can do with it, and we're just starting, and we did a complete fielding of this radio system in under 90 days.
Now, we often hear the emergency broadcast thing, that really delightful sound that they use, and they say, you've got an emergency here and an announcement coming forward. Do you hook into that system at all?
We can, if we have a message that we need to put out, and Lighthorse can also do that for Amber Alerts and other things. We have access to the statewide system.
Okay. One of the things that we're still looking at, keeping an eye on, of course, is the wildfire situation. Now, we've had some really intense fires earlier this year, and people were losing homes and businesses to fires that were just completely kicking our tails there. In a situation that involves a wildfire like that, do you coordinate with the BIA crew over here? How do you respond to something like that?
So for us, because the nation itself doesn't have firefighting assets, the BIA wildfire team is here on a rotational basis, but they're not here, every day just for us. They have a time schedule when they're here and when they're not, and it's usually during wildfire season. They won't be here in the winter time or anything like that. But we coordinate with the counties, and then we also we have access to the state system where, if it was coming towards trust property or restricted property, and we have maps that have all that laid out, there are homes on it, then we can call like for helicopters. The advantage here is I used to be the person that took that call at the Emergency Operations Center for the Guard. So, we're lucky. I can do all those things a lot faster than most people can.
Now, I saw a lot of this kind of coordination in action. In my own personal career, I spent a lot of time with as a public information officer, a PIO, as they go, for the electric utility. But as a city employee, we were called on to assist with the crews that needed it. And so I ended up going to Northern California and watching that happen. And I was amazed at the resources that were pulled together to deal with, Haymarket. And they took over the fairgrounds, and they had, of course, room for the firefighting response teams, their equipment, and to feed and house people. You had to sort of bring your own tent, but they had supplies if you needed one. And a big, huge concession for food. The teams really ate well. I mean, if you weren't out swinging a shovel or something like that, you had to kind of get a little thick around the middle on what they supplied. A huge amount of calories per person was there, and you could have a sack lunch, which would feed you for a couple of days, actually. All of that came together, and I was amazed. Now, if we have a big situation like that, would you be part of a statewide team, perhaps, or a federal assets to come in to deal with a situation?
So if it's within the nation, we will have a seat at the table. And if we are the lead agency, then we will manage the event, and we will bring in the assets to do that. Currently, Chief has a set of plans for an emergency operations center, which is designed so that it's kind of on a regional concept. Each of the tribes is tied in with their county emergency managers. So we've kind of, I hate to say this, kind of cut the state up. On our side of the state, you have the Choctaws are south, the Cherokees are east, then you have us, and each one of us would be able to house a FEMA jet team or a state team, which we would never request a state team because the tribes provide that piece. Mm-hmm. So the state would send a liaison down so that they could coordinate, but we would never have a team from the state come in to manage. We would manage the event ourselves with our tribal partners and our county emergency managers.
Okay. It's sort of like, hey, remember, you're on reservation land here.
That's absolutely correct, and we take that very seriously, and so do the rest of the nations. They all they take it very seriously. Mm-hmm. If you saw any of the camera footage from the governor's meeting or briefing at Shawnee, you see in the background you have a Mvskoke Creek Nation emergency management truck, you have a Choctaw Nation, you have a Chickasaw Nation, you have a Citizens of the Potawatomi. The command center that we first set up is the command trailer that belongs to Choctaw Nation, and we used it because it was the closest one. Mm-hmm. They had been using it at an event, like I spoke about earlier. We support all of the big tribal events. So they had it in an event. They just hooked up to it and brought it up there. So the entire Shawnee event was coordinated either out of a tribal trailer or a tribal building.
Yeah. Now, if someone was interested in obtaining more information or felt like they needed help from your office, the emergency management team, how would they get in touch with you?
So the office number is 918-732-2700.
And now, are we in a position now where we still need to be on our toes because of tornadoes or even wildfires?
So now we're in the kind of quiet, slowing down tornado period, ramping up into the flood period. And since we're talking about tornadoes, I'll bring it up. The Office of Emergency Management received a grant from FEMA to install 250 above ground storm shelters. We received that grant. The individual that will be the project manager starts on Monday. We will develop all of the required forms that not only the nation needs but FEMA needs, so that we can use the federal funds. And then we will put the application out on the Camp House portal, which all of our citizens mm-hmm. are very, very familiar with. That's where all of the ARPA dollars came from. And then we'll start taking those applications, and we're going to build about 250 storm shelters over the next 2 years.
Now, are we talking about
individual?
Safe rooms?
Safe rooms. Yep.
Okay.
You can put it in your garage, or if you want it outside, it has to be within 25 feet of an exterior door. Mm-hmm. So that when you exit, you exit and it's very short distance
right.
To it. And we did a lot of research. I know my grandmother, she wanted one in the ground until she was about 80, and she took a tumble, and in trying to get her out with her being hurt, it plays a big factor. Being an elder will be one of the criteria mm-hmm. to mm-hmm. get one of the storm shelters. So it's a lot easier for them to just walk right into a safe room as right. opposed to try to get up and down. Because those are steep steps.
Oh yeah, I've seen them, and if you slip,
you slip and
ouch.
Yeah, broken bones, mm-hmm. broken hips, and then and the pain and suffering is definitely not worth putting our citizens through.
Right.
And so that's our plan.
And they could be actually blocking access to the rest of the shelter there because they're on.
Because they're there.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Bobby Howard, thank you so much for coming down and talking with me. I know we're hopefully going to be able to dodge most of the tornado season and no nasty things happen, although we do have Oklahoma weather to deal with that can be changing in a matter of seconds practically. Now, we appreciate you. Now, of course, applications for those shelters will be coming out soon, and there are guidelines.
And we will publish all of those documents so that everyone can see. The program is totally transparent. Mm-hmm. Everyone will be able to see. This is how the scoring is. This is
Right.
They'll be able to see everything. That's how Chief wants things done.
Right, and mentioning the scoring, you just don't walk up and get a free safe room. You've got to meet certain guidelines and eligibility requirements.
Yes, sir.
Like we've mentioned, and those will be available. All right, well, thank you, sir. We appreciate you taking time to come out and talk with me today. We hopefully will be able to get some people into shelters when they need them, and we'll keep our eye on it. If you've got anything else, any other emergency requirements, please let Mvskoke Media know, and we'll do what we can to assist in that process. So, Mado, 2,000 Mados, we appreciate it, and we'll be talking to you again soon. All right, we're going to take a short pause here, and we'll get on with our second segment here. So please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio here on The Brew, 1240 AM, 106.3 FM here in beautiful downtown Okmulgee.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Hear that? That's the sound of Hope being killed by meth. Methamphetamine use is causing huge problems in our community. Hear that? That's the sound of something you can do about it. Events like rodeo, res ball, and family time can help keep kids away from meth.
Talk to your kids. Keep our culture alive. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Learn more at ncai.org.
Who am I? Am I native? I don't want people assuming things because I'm Indian. I just want to be me. But how do I live in two worlds? Some guys just check out by doing meth. But that ain't for me. Because I see my family, my friends, my drum making, my future. There are a lot of cool things about being who I am. And meth isn't one of them.
Learn more at ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
That moment of silence was brought to you by Mvskoke Media. And now we're going to be speaking with Anna Sterner and Anita Watashi there with our food distribution program. When I think of that program, the first thing that always comes to my mind is that big block of cheese. And I understand it's quite an asset people trying to get hold of. So welcome to our program. We appreciate you coming in, and we'll be talking about some of the things that you're involved with, some of the programs that we'll be dealing with, and things like that. So if we could get you to come on in and settle in behind those microphones. We're going to be in good shape. First of all, Ms. Sterner, as I always like to do, let's talk about what your program is, what services it provides for our people, and the kinds of things that people can expect when they talk to food distribution. And I understand now you've expanded the program too.
Yes. So good morning. It's nice to be here. Thank you for having us. First off, I would like to say that this year, the Mvskoke Creek Nation Food Distribution will be celebrating 41 years in business. Yes, so we are hoping to have a grand opening and celebration in June around the festival. We're working on that now, so we will give you more information as that comes, but we are very excited. We were able to do a complete renovation of the Okmulgee facility this past year with federal funding from USDA. So we went in and remodeled the entire facility and updated it to make it more friendly during a pandemic was the goal. We also increased our freezer and cooler space that now we can hold enough food in case we have a disaster. We can receive food from FEMA. So we are very excited about that.
Wow. So it was good that we had emergency management right before your folks. Now, food distribution, make sure that people understand what your program's all about. It's not just free food. You have to be eligible. You have to meet some requirements.
Yes.
And part of that is income, of course.
Yes, of course we do. It is a federal program, as I mentioned, and we are income-based. But USDA has been very gracious recently. They have allowed for some deductions. We can now accept a utility or medical deduction. The utility/shelter deduction is now $400 per family across the board. So that can be for a household of 1 up to a household of 10. So we have everything listed online now. We no longer take paper applications. When you come in, you just bring your required documents and you will speak to a certification specialist and they'll figure everything on the computer. If you are approved that day, you do get your food that day. It's not like SNAP. You don't have to wait a waiting period or 30 days for your paperwork to be completed. If you're approved, you can receive your food the same day.
That'd be great. Now, if you're hungry, waiting 30 days would be kind of a
Yes, that is true.
severe challenge there.
And then also the main thing that we were wanting to get out today, the information, is that recently Anita and I had applied for a waiver for the Mvskoke and Broken Arrow city limits. They have always been on our jurisdiction, but according to USDA guidelines, we were not able to serve those two areas because the population within the city limits was over 10,000. But with the recent economy and the changes, we went in and asked for a waiver. During COVID, we lost a lot of participation due to the SNAP increases. And now that that has been cut off, we are starting to get some people back. So now, for the first time ever, we are eligible to service people inside the city limits of Mvskoke and Broken Arrow. They have to meet the requirements, and they cannot be on SNAP, but they have the option now. They don't only have the option of SNAP. They can either come to SNAP or to food distribution.
Right. Now, to make sure that people understand what's required there, we're not talking about just coming in and grabbing food and
Right.
heading home. There's a process there.
Yes. So for the requirements, you have to bring in at least one member of the family has to be enrolled with a federally recognized tribe. So not all the members, just one. So we would need their CDIB card or their citizenship card. Then we would need a current utility bill in their name stating that their address. And it has to be a utility bill. It can't just be random junk mail. then that way for the utility bill, if they're over, we can use that utility bill for the shelter utility deduction. So that's why we need the utility bill in their name. And then, what am I forgetting? Social Security cards for everyone in that household. And that's to verify that they're not on SNAP. So, and then on their income, the way it's determined, if you're paid weekly, then we would need 4 consecutive payroll wages. If it's biweekly, we need 2. If it's monthly, we need 1. If they're on a fixed income, then we would need their award letter that they get.
Okay. Now, Anita, in training, what is your responsibility there? What is your duty there?
As a trainer in compliance, I make sure that they're in compliance with the guidelines that USDA allows. And so, like, I'll go in and check files, and we have a form that we use, and it's like a checklist. So I'll go in and check the files. But the system that we have now, it kind of does it itself. So, but I'll make sure that the ladies are in compliance when they certify someone.
Okay. Now, I think the big question here is what are those guidelines and requirements there? Are we talking income, family size, residence? Tell me what's involved there.
Yeah, it is income based, and it goes by your household. Like for 1, it's $13.26. For 2, it's like $17.19. And then
And those numbers represent income per week or what?
monthly income.
Okay.
That's monthly.
All right. And what else is involved there? What do you need to look at?
We figure their income and check to make sure they're not on SNAP benefits. And then the required documents of the citizenship or CDIB card, Social Security cards. If they don't have the cards, as long as they have the numbers, we can use that. And then the utility bill.
Now, before we go too much further, SNAP. What is SNAP?
It's what they used to call food stamps.
Food stamps.
Yeah.
Which stands for
The SNAP.
Yeah.
Supplemental nutrition.
There we are.
Yes, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yes.
When someone is eligible to participate in the program, they can come into your distribution center. It's a beautiful looking place. And shelves lined with food and your freezers there. So what is it that what are you offering there? What is?
So just a reminder that we do have 3 facilities. We have Okmulgee, Coweta, and Wetumpka. So depending on where you live, you have 3 options of where you can go and shop. And we have I feel like we have lots of variety, especially in our frozen area and our produce. We have frozen blueberries now, frozen peas, carrots, and then in our fresh, we have basically anything that's available at your local grocery store we get in. Now, there have been a few instances recently that we haven't been able to get some items due to the growing conditions, but that's been across the board. So normally, anything that we receive in our grocery stores has to be grown in the U.S., but because of the recent growing conditions, USDA has had some talk that we may start accepting some items out of the U.S. just due to the lack of ability to get certain items. So that's still in discussion, and we're waiting to hear on that. But as far as we get sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, onions, red and white. We get cucumbers, celery, lettuce, tomatoes, broccoli, cauliflower, soup mix. We have tortillas now. We have butter. We have real butter. We have margarine. We have real eggs now. We have real eggs instead of just the powdered eggs. Our meat choices go from bison, pork chops, catfish, chicken breast, whole chickens, of course, hamburger meat. And then we have our canned options. We have tuna, chicken, and canned beef still, which is always, the canned beef is still a favorite. But we have basically everything that you would have in a grocery store.
Now, listening to you describe the foods that are available, it made me think about when I ran across this distribution as a child. We saw a lot of canned material. We used to call it canned Spam. There were bags of flour and things like that, cornmeal and others. So your program over the years has really expanded its nutritional availability.
Most definitely, and it's not off brands. We get Del Monte flour, we get flour, cornmeal. We even have healthier options such as wheat flour. In our pastas, we offer wheat pastas, rotini, whole wheat rotini. So definitely the nutritional value is much better, and it's not just an off-brand or a black and white label. We do have labels that they carry in the grocery store today.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah, I remember people talking about that's where fry bread came from, because you had flour in these big, huge bags and oil and things like that, and you fry it up, and there you are. And also, as a child, of course, the old fried Spam sandwich.
Yes.
A big chunk of Spam. And
now, they have never brought that back, but they have left us with the canned beef, so everybody seems to be complacent with that, yes.
And, of course, the famous block of cheese.
Yes, we have the whole block of cheese, and it comes sliced now, too, so they have their choice.
Okay, so without having to slice it yourself, you don't get this big, huge block of cheese.
Yes.
Anyway, God, that's making me hungry now.
Well, it's almost lunchtime.
Yes, it is, and that's one of the challenges of doing this show. And you talk about foods, all of a sudden you start getting hungry. Has the response from our citizenship and the public grown over the years? Has the demand increased?
Again, before COVID, we were probably at one of the highest participation levels that we had been in a long time. We were serving over 3,000 families a month. Wow. But during COVID is when we lost our participation. And that was because the government offered so many additional benefits to the SNAP program. They were receiving at one time, I think, $300 per person on the program. So if you had a household of 5, that's an extra $1,500 of food a month. So we lost over half of our participation to SNAP during COVID. So that's why we requested the waiver. Again, we're just getting out there and doing outreach, because now those SNAP benefits have been cut off. And so for some people, like if it's just a household of 1 and they go and apply for SNAP, they may receive, like $61? That may be all that they get now. And with ours, we don't give the monetary amount, but I promise you get more than $61 worth of food from our program, and it's nutritious and healthy. So we're kind of just reiterating that and letting people know that we are still open. Please come apply. If you weren't eligible before, you may be eligible now because of the new deductions. And again, then we're open now to the city limits of Mvskoke and Broken Arrow.
I remember that there was kind of a, I don't know what I want to call it here, a bit of a stigma involved with people who had to go to food distribution. It means you weren't making it on your own for whatever reason, and you had to go get help like this. Has that really changed? Last time I watched the distribution come in, there were families coming through. They were glad that this resource was available. They were kind of laughing and happy and having a good time. So it really has changed.
Right. I honestly don't believe there's any stigma attached with it. We jokingly talk all the time in the office. We wished we could get commodities because just now of the sheer variety that they have, the fresh vegetables, the fresh fruit, we get grapes, plums, peaches, pears. We get the whole variety, and anyone that knows how expensive it is now to grocery shop. So it's really a luxury to be able to be on the program and be able to have the choices that they have now.
It seemed like it is much more attractive.
Yes.
When you look at it, and then when you think about what's there, you think, geez, this is a nice variety of food that's available.
Yes, it is. And then just the option that they can come in and shop and get what they want, but also because COVID is still here, we are still offering the pick and pull where you call in your order and we get it ready and then you just drive through and pick it up. So we do have that available for those that still aren't comfortable coming in and shopping. And then again, we have our home delivery program for elders and disabled. And if you qualify for that, then we bring your food to you each month to your door. We deliver. And I believe last month we had 72 or 73 home deliveries. And again, that may not sound like very much, but when you're delivering to 12 different counties, we go all the way from, what would be the farthest we go up north?
Probably
Wagner, and then down south, Holdenville, and then both ways, Eufaula, Bristow, we deliver to all the people that are in our jurisdiction. So we have just in Okmulgee alone, we do 5 days of home deliveries.
Wow, that's incredible. Has your client population changed? Are there more elders receiving your assistance, or is it younger families? Have you noticed any changes?
I think it would be, of course, we still have our elders that are on fixed incomes, but I would feel like now it's more of the younger people, especially during COVID when so many people either lost work or were unable to work at that time. And so we're still seeing the effects of that.
Mm-hmm. Now, have your client population really bounced back from that COVID situation?
No, we haven't. So again, outreach, Anita has been going to a lot of health fairs, different venues to let people know that, our program is available. We are online with the Mvskoke Creek Nation website. We're under Community and Human Services. All of our guidelines, all the information and requirements are online. But if anybody would like us to come to an area and speak about our program and let them know what the requirements are, we would be happy to do that. They would just need to call the office and ask for Anita, and we can get that scheduled also.
Wow, that's incredible. You never heard of any kind of availabilities of assistance?
Again, pre-COVID, everybody knew we were there, and we kind of had our clientele built up. And like I said, when SNAP offered all those extra benefits and now they're being cut off, we want them to know that we are still open and we are still available.
Okay. Now, with the expanded territory, you mentioned Broken Arrow and Mvskoke, will that put a little more stress on being able to provide? I mean, is it more numbers there that you can handle?
We are hoping to get there. Again, we just started this last month. And we started last month, but we really haven't got to advertise. So that's what we're out doing now. We've got have a article coming out in the newspaper. We've been going to community meetings and announcing the new areas and just our programs again, like I said, outreach. So we haven't seen an increase enough that would require additional staff. Again, we're just trying to get back where we were pre-COVID.
Okay. Now, make sure that everyone understands the eligibility, which I think is critically important. Can you maybe repeat some of the requirements or the qualifications that people need to bring in and show you or talk about or even qualify?
Okay, to be eligible, we would need one member of the household that has a federally recognized citizenship card. We would need social security cards for everyone in the household. If they do not have social security cards, we at least need their numbers. That's how we check them for SNAP. We would need 30 days of income. So if you get paid weekly, we would need the last 4 consecutive check stubs. Bi-weekly or twice a month, we would need the last 2 consecutive. And if you're paid monthly, we would need your most current check stub. And then for clients that's on set income like Social Security or VA benefits, then we would need their most current award letter. And then a current utility bill that has their name and address, and it has to have a physical address on their utility bill.
So no post office box?
No, and we have to have direction,
Okay.
physical address. And then we do have an income guideline that we go by. And they can always, if they want to apply, they can call and schedule an appointment.
Now, does that guideline affect the amount of assistance you can get? If they were going to family size?
Yeah, the amount of food you get goes by household.
Okay.
So a household of 1, household of 2. So the more that's in the household, the more quantity of food you would be allowed.
Okay, wonderful. Now, as I said, asked before, if anyone was interested in talking with you or finding out, what's the number they should call, perhaps?
The main number to food distribution is 918-549-2401.
Okay. Well, let's see here. What have we got? And Anita, thank you all for coming down and sharing some information. It's nice to know that you're going to be able to expand the territory and the population that you'll be able to assist. And we'll keep our eyes out in case somebody has a stray block of cheese that they don't need. That's going to be a family Indian joke forever. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Yeah.
No. And thank you again for inviting us.
Okay. Now we're going to take a real short pause, and we do have a couple of announcements to share, so please stay with us here on Mvskoke Radio.
I started doing it when I was 11. I wanted to be just like my big brother. And some of my friends were already doing it. We got hooked fast. I just can't get enough. I'm Jacob, and I'm addicted to playing the drums.
There's lots of stuff that makes it cool to be Native. Doing meth isn't one of them. Find something better to do. Check out ncai.org. A message from the Partnership for a Drug-Free America and the National Congress of American Indians.
Okay, a message from Mvskoke Radio here. We got a couple of things to share with you. First of all, as I mentioned in our program earlier, Tradio, Twin Hills Indian Community is having their spring market sale on the 6th from 9 to 3, and that's 8100 North Highway 52 in El Mogi. Indian taco sale from 11 to 2 there. And if you're interested, arts, crafts, garage sale items, and eggs, crafts, things like that. Muskogee Language Immersion Camp is coming up June the 12th and the 15th at Sequoia Lodge in Hobart. You want to apply by the 12th. Give a call to 732-7649 for information there. Graduation stoles are available if you are going to apply. You have to be an enrolled citizen of the Mvskoke Creek Nation, and students participating in Tribal Higher Education Associate, Bachelor, Master, or Doctorate level programs, and graduating, you're eligible, so you want to get a hold of them. And, of course, calling for graduate profiles for publication in Muskogee News in this special June 1st edition of the Muskogee News. The deadline is May the 12th. And please know that late profiles will not be accepted. We have to get them out, so you've got to have them in by May the 12th, 732-7720. Conference of Laity, Oklahoma Indian Missionary Conference, lay servant training May the 5th and 6th, going on now at the Preston Ministry Center. Begins on Friday at 5 p.m., Saturday at 8 p.m. Get a hold of June Marshall, 759-7814 for information on that program. Okay, that's all we can do with it. Thank you for listening. We appreciate it. And joining us here on Mvskoke Radio, here on The Brew. You've been listening to Mvskoke Radio. Join us again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. But